the harvest system. There are people masquerading that not just people masquerading the true light or masquerading as true light when they are false light, but they're using their energies to manifest and try to manipulate others into shaping them into what they think they should be. Um, and they are feeding into beings that also feed off of the suffering, deprivation, and entropy of others. They cause entropy. They cause them an ordeal of misfortune, and that somehow feeds them. And for the ones who help those beings, those matrix gods, whatever you want to call them, in their conquest to feed, they get rewarded with certain with enhancements to their manifestations. So it's like a demon, as you say, or some being. That's why I say in some cases, some people use religion for their own selfish intentions rather than for righteousness or good. And in one of my other videos, my previous videos, I was explaining how the light came from darkness, and that in some cases you would think that true light is still false light because you just lesser evil trying to overthrow the evil in power or the evil who has that advantage, and there's a chance that they can use that evil. The ones who are the lesser evil can use that to gain power and then become the new evil in some cases. But it's all about how you're using what you're being taught, your teachings, your beliefs, your energy, your darkness, and your light. And I think I said in one of my other videos, is how you use it that makes it evil or good. But overall, I just say creation, even though they had good intention, is still evil because you're forcing something into another's world. That is not ever a good thing, even if you did have good intentions. So that's why I'm so against creation and procreation, because it disrupts uh, the eternal peace and bliss of energy, of eternal beings, unsanctioned and unconsensually disrupting them. They were unconscious, unawakened, and at peace, um, flowing in the permanent salvation. Look, I think this, but that's why I said in some cases it's not good to incorporate any beliefs, especially if it's a group type of belief system, religion, cult, whatever one call it, because in some cases um, it's a form of a sacrifice. And in some cases it can be good if they're using it, if their intention is to use it for good. But for this particular case, especially if they're operating as false light, it's not as much going to benefit those individuals at the top who are pretty much bringing others to be feast on by these entities, and they're being rewarded for that, for rounding up beings to give their worshiping energy, their energy to those beings, and those beings give them rewards. They give them their wishes or help them to manifest or enhance their manifestations. So it'll likely come into fruition in this realm. That's why you see some beings flourishing more than others because they are helping these beings, these entities, receive their energy, and there's a portion of it's given to them so they can keep flourishing in this realm. It's like when you are happy or in peace in this realm, it's it's like it's met with some type of turmoil or misfortune in some cases because it's the like I said, misery loves company, or like people say, misery loves company. So it's like if you are happy, it's like it seems forbidden in some cases. So when you like are content with staging your life and you trying to like you you feel confident that you're handling your life well, something comes along and disrupts that. And they try to say it's the universe, but you make the universe seem like it's an evil thing. Then, if the universe sees that you're content in your stage of your life and you're flourishing at a prosperous rate, doing well, and y'all, some people say the universe don't like you to feel content with your life, so it disrupts it to continue to force you to grow. But you never needed the life from the beginning. You never needed a life or experiencing anything. You didn't need to experience sin or good or evil. You was already in permanent salvation, the bliss and peace. So for anything to force creation upon it is evil, or force it into existence, force it beings into a temporary vessel, which is a lie. That's what I said. All creation are false. Um, and the titles that of these entities or being identified with these identities is false or false. You're more than just you shouldn't identify with these names, these titles or these beings because they're not you. If anything, they're just using you to cause entropy across the land or across other people's lives to as feast. It's a feeding. And that's why I say sit them away or eternal sleep, eternal bliss. Because I think those beings just aren't, they either forgotten how to go back to sleep or they just need to be sealed away because if they're causing misfortune deliberately upon others as as a form of an energy channel to feast off them, off their misery, then they need to be sealed away. And even the ones who are helping these beings to, you know, to feast off them or bringing them these others to feast on. So that's why I use my knowledge, my manifestos to manifest or to shine a light on these types of issues that these beings are doing, that they're uh, causing entropy, and show example through our own life how they um, stripped away or caused terrible moments to strip away my current situation that I felt confident in obtaining. I worked hard for the things I've lost. Even though it's temporary, I still worked hard for them. And I was in a relationship that at times I may have felt bored about, but it was still a union that I could say I was still more or less happy for. But like I said, I think the more you shine in peace and bliss in this realm, uh, it entices entities, like I said, energetic vampires or beings that just feed off of it, and they don't like to see you happy for some reason. They rather see you in misery, um, suffering. They like to cause the entropy, like I said, to force control, not only to control but to feed off you. They like the negative aspects. They said they call it loose energy, but it's the same thing. And that's why I made another video saying not to incorporate religion into your life. It's just, but I can't just blame beliefs because you learned a lot from these doctrines, these scriptures about these evil entities. It's just that it seems like introduced you more, but I feel like they also do it because they're trying to deter you from your connection or from obtaining the knowledge at the same time. And you're going to experience trials and tribulations, regardless if you believe or not. I ain't gonna lie, I was experiencing hardships when I was before I really incorporated religion. Working hard and going through the matrix system of working for someone else, giving your energy away for resources, like money and whatever. So even when I wasn't, I was still going through trials and tribulations. When I was in my union with the person I was with, I was going through, hardships. But what I'm saying is that it hits the hardest when you're finally content with the stage of that you're in your life. When you finally feel like you finally uh, handling the way the world operates, you finally find a niche that fits. That's when it's a lot more things are orchestrated, and that's when the fall is the most impactful. It's when you're content, and or when you feel like you have a good handle on it. And it's like that's why I feel like I probably unknowingly invited. I hate to say invited, but attracted certain people and things that was envious and wanted what I had, and cost the time on. And there's also ones that may already know me, whether it's relatives or friends or whatever, that hated to see I was moving ahead and actually happy in life, and they wanted to deliberately cause misfortune and to take everything that I had, or to cause a major fall in my life. But I guess some people may think that causing a fall in another person's life would have shaped them into um, a better person. They want you to think that they're doing it for your own good, for your betterment. But I don't think it is. I think they just wanting to cause it to feast off the energy as well as just cause the misery, to cause the misfortune, or to like I said, karmic debt transfers. One of my songs, I'm talking about that, how they use other for sacrificial beacons, sacrificial children, and they're karmic debt transferring because they want what you have. So the best way to do it is called like switching. They they give their misfortunes, or they try to give like that negative energy and shift it onto another so they can have in exchange the what they consider the good look. So that's another tactic that has been used, and we fall victims to them, those beings. But it's time for us to, grasp and be the actual true light, the righteous darkness, and to seal them away, defeat them. Um, because my intentions aren't are pure. They're good. Even when I'm saying deactivate procreation, infertility, sterilization, and procreation, it's good because it's bringing us, helping us to return back to origins, to what we were before creation. Um, the eternal bliss and peace. But in case we can't, um, and people just want to live the life, even though they were forced into existence or forced awakened, because I feel like you existed before. You was forced in this realm. You just was in peace. Uh, even though the light is the one that forced it, and it's on the section of non-essential, just living your life. You can live your life without having to birth or force another being into existence. I'm sorry. I just feel like the union between the 0 and 1 is risky, but you can have companionship without forcing another being into existence, because that's a divination in itself. I'm sorry. It's I'm trying to understand. I see the positive of procreation, and I do see like seeing another being that you love and care for. The magic of seeing a being, a small little being that came from you, grow up. So I understand the sentiments behind having a child, but that sentiment, it's what's causing the misery across the world for the individual that you're bringing in. In some cases, the kids adapt and used to, but what kid or one person, what unborn being would choose, if they had the chance to choose, to come into existence, into another world where they have to conform to systems or ways of being that are forced oppression upon them to align to. And if you don't align to that and you try to be different or dare to be different in the same realm, you're or you're giving more pushback. Like it seems like you have to fight harder for certain lifestyles or ways of being, just because it does not preserve the life. Like, you make it make sense, but the very lifestyle that promotes and preserves the life or keeps it going is actually what keeps it going. It's the problem. A 0 plus 1, the opposite genders, even though it is, experience love from that, but because they're at risk of bringing others into existence, and because they're literally the lifeline of the simulation, keeping it going causes more harm than good over time, and we have seen it through history and time. By keeping the human species going, by keeping the simulation going, by act of procreation, keeps everything else going. It keeps the evil and the sin going as well, and the good. And that's a disservice in some cases. It's a service and a disservice, a double edge for Christ. Just like we say with sin or desires of the flesh or just living is a double edge. Duality. That's the double edge, you know? So you experience peace, but you experience moments of, you know, problems too. And that's what my intention is to prevent or to try to protect those who are not in this realm from coming into this realm. The ones who don't have a voice in this realm. And for it to finally crumble and die and to let it go. And there's entities that may not because they're benefiting, or beings or people who are benefiting in this realm to keep preserved. Because why? Well, they are receiving most of the harvest. So they're experiencing a fruitful life. But then there's some of us that are like, and that's where the unfairness comes in. That's why it needs to be dismounted. Why it needs to end, because it's not fairly distributed. It's not beneficial for a vast amount of people or beings. It was fine. I think everyone was fine being in the vastness of eternal sleep and bliss and peace. That's beneficial for everyone. But what caused a rift and disruption was the light forcing beings into existence. The darkness basically wanting to create and force others awaken into a world that caused an imbalance, that caused a hierarchy, it caused division. Even though they try to make it look like it's wanting for everybody to be one, but how can you be one when in this realm you experience individuality, but some alikeness in some sense, because you still experience those similar emotions in the realm, the living. It's still we still experience a hierarchy. We still experience constructs, morality, emotions, all these different things that make us different but yet alike at the same time. But when there was nothing but eternal peace and bliss and darkness, there was no need for any of it. So yeah, I've written some notes about the darkness, well, not about just the darkness, but how some beings use their energies to stay up top, to manifest what they're wanting, while at the expense of others. That's why I do the other song, Most High, because that's what it talks about, preserving their lives just for the expense of others. So, and they use emotions to validate it. especially love. They love to use love and sin. That's their two major alibis. Want other people to live so they can experience the stimuli of living, the good and the bad, the feel of indulging in a certain sin or living your life. That's what I said. Living your life is sin, basically, and experiencing love. But you never needed the love or the sins. So it gives them an excuse to keep the world while benefiting. So basically, so they continue to eat, so they can stay being a light being, false light being, matrix God, whatever you want to call it, even the true light God. If they harvesting, individuals, because it's still just light in the end. So that's how they're sustaining. Uh, I may be wrong about the true light. Maybe they don't feed off, but I'm just gonna take it as like it is, what is being revealed to me. And these are just beings that who feast off of others, entities, if the shoe fit word. But that's why they create these systems, books, writings, belief systems. They use gender norms, traditions, common patterns to solidify certain claims that you should follow, and that the claim is for us to follow gender roles to keep the game going, so to continue to have something to beings to harvest upon. And like I said, they deliberately gaslight and misdirect way of certain activities as sinful to steer the most, I don't know what this word is, further further from permanent salvation. So they use certain traditions to steer you from being saved and returning back to the permanent, eternal salvation and bliss, the permanent salvation, the eternal sleep and peace, because they are enjoying their dream. They're enjoying their dream life, and unfortunately, for them to enjoy their dream life, they depend on the suffering of others to keep their dream life instated. Keep it flourishing and going. And I think many groups, whether they're of religious belief systems or a financial belief system or financial systems, hierarchies, ones at the top benefit a lot off of the suffering of the many. And like I said, this realm is, as I said, this life, this realm is, it's just evil in time, because it's literally benefiting few. It, I know there's some groups who are trying to fight. Like I said, it's true light. The actual true light is trying to make it to where if we have to continue to be living in these realms, that we should be able to make it to where it's distributed evenly, so everyone can have a flourishing life, not just a few, not just 1%. And principalities and gods, whatever, have shown that they don't care, that they're tired of it, that they're rather you go extinct, because they're done with the experiment of forcing other beings into existence. But as a being that's been gone through a lot, age after age, reincarnation after reincarnation, if there's just such thing reincarnation, they're like, why should we stop when you force us in? We want to have a good life too, even though it is a simulation life. But we want to fight to for that change then. Because these beings feast off of it. That's why I say fight, but go extinct. I prefer going extinct, but it's going to be a minute unless something drastic happens with causing massive depopulation. But if it happens, don't repopulate. But the problem is, every time an event like that happens, y'all repopulate. So the best thing, so I like to give the advice, and y'all gotta have to execute it. It just can't be just one person executing it and stop reproducing it. Everyone will have to stop procreating. But if people don't stop and they just want to keep it going, we have to work together to make this realm a more beneficial realm for all. But why would you? My thing is, that's why I say what I say. Why fight for a world that was made to attract you? You see what I'm trying to get at? Why fight for a world that was built to benefit off of your suffering? That you're nothing but a battery cell to them. They use you for work to build their empires and leave you for dead. Only for you to try to fight, to try to overthrow them, to take back their world, only to elect certain individuals that may or may not uphold fairness as they get um, move further and further away from righteousness to corruption, just because they have forgotten or have been drunken with power, and then you have to fight again to reestablish harmony, righteousness again. You see what I'm saying? It's just that ongoing battle instead of just ending it and let it slowly deplete to zero. That's back to what we were. The permanent salvation, that's sleep, the bliss, and peace. And some may say, it's powers in numbers. We can make it happen. You can't let these people deter you from living a good life. You gotta stop them. Well, like I said, it's just about coming together and putting an end to it. You have that option, and I think you can do that. We can fight to make the world better and not procreate, at least for a time being. At least until we get uh, the world functioning the way that it needs to for the many and not just for the few. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't serve anyone constantly bringing children into poverty situations in family or even the working class. It does not benefit bringing more into a realm you know that is not fair, that is not functioning the way you need it to function for you and for your family. Oh, it's just not a wise thing because then you birth more mouths to feed, it increases the difficulty of the whole this whole round when you do that. When you constantly feeding into the beings who feed off of loose energy, negative, and you bring another being into existence for it to feed off of. You basically manufacture more matrix toys for these beings, these entities. Um, and it's just time to deplete it. So I think that's the best way to boycott, protest against the test, this test of life, this realm, is by not procreating. Use your body. Protest with your body. Protest with your reproductive organ. And say, no, you're more than just this vessel. You are. We all are. So why are you still, don't give in to the gender roles. Do the opposite. Do not procreate. At least if you are not attracted to the same gender, at least don't procreate still, regardless. Just if everybody stand up as a nation, as a species, and don't procreate. It's that simple. At least do that. Um, that will put a halt to their captivity. That's what I feel about it. I know this is too long, so I may make a short one and just write everything out to where